welcome to our first tutorial. Today we're going to talk about, we did a poll in the community, and what you guys chose to learn first is how to improve your drawings. And well, at a very basic level, drawing is just a matter of moving our hands to make our tool, be that a pencil, a brush, or like a pen from a drawing tablet, to draw the marks on the canvas that you want, and also know what kind of marks, where to move your hand so you can communicate what it is that you're trying to draw. And so maybe you are a complete beginner and you try to draw like a portrait of, a human face, which is something that you enjoy or want to learn how to draw better. And since you are a beginner, you don't have the foundations yet, the foundational skills, they might be hard, and you try to just paint or just try to draw it from the reference, and then what you draw ends up being nothing like the reference, and that can be very demotivating, right? And the way to get better at drawing is just to draw more. If you're trying to get better at doing push-ups, you gotta do more push-ups. But then the issue is you're such a beginner that doing those push-ups is very hard. So the solution for us is to start with easier progressions. And I'm gonna teach you in this tutorial how to do these easier progressions when it comes to drawing. And what we're gonna do is what I like to call reference breakdowns. So I'm gonna show you what I mean by that. I have here my iPad. I'm using Procreate. I have a very basic square canvas, and I prepared some references that we're going to start studying. Now, depending on your skill level, you might want to have to start with super basic references, like basic geometric shapes. For instance, might need to start with a square, and then you can draw two squares, and eventually introduce like spheres, cylinders, more complex geometry, and have a chess pawn here, and eventually start building up into more complex references. And then if you do this exercise day by day, you are going to build the foundation, the muscle memory in your hands, and also start to understand how to look at a reference and simplify it in your own head so you can then draw it on the canvas. And so I'm gonna do this exercise together with you to kind of show you what I mean by this. So I just created like a bunch of layers here. I have my reference. I dropped the opacity quite a bit, and then I created an empty layer on top, and I got like a very bright color, very saturated color, with just like a basic sketch brush. If I'm going too fast, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to slow down next time if you guys think I'm going too fast. So we have our basic reference here, and we're basically going to draw on top of it, but we're going to draw like a breakdown of our reference. But since our reference is so simple, it's not gonna be too much of a breakdown. But the way we're gonna do this is looking at our reference. What are like the main reference points that we have that we need to start drawing. So like for me, I can see there are like corners, right? There are lines between those corners. And so when I'm doing this breakdown, I'm trying to understand what makes this reference what it is. You know, it's a cube. So what makes this cube a cube? How can I communicate that this is a cube? And let's start by creating a point here. And what I'm seeing first is like this line that connects to this other side. And if you really want to go slowly and understand it, you can start paying attention to like the relationship between the points, the relationship between the lines, because everything is drawing is relative to other things. For instance, a line, if I draw this line here, if I had an empty canvas, and this was my first line, now all the proportions, the angles, the perspectives, they're all relative to the other lines that are already on the canvas. So what we really need to start thinking about is the relationship between those things, those landmarks, let's say. So yeah, like I drilled these 2 points, and now I'm going to connect them because, well, we have this vertex. And anyways, so also if you're drawing, don't rest like your wrists on the canvas and just do this with your fists. Try to hold the weight with your shoulders, then move your arm like this. So like getting like better and having this control. Because remember, drawing is about learning how to move our hands and knowing where to move it. So we need to build that muscle memory of being able to draw these lines and shapes. Okay, so moving forward, I'm going to draw next this other point here. And right now we have 3 points. So like if I quickly turn this off, you can start noticing like the relationship between these points. Like this one is quite on top. This one is also a bit to the right of this one. So try to, in your head, take notes of these relationships, because this is what's going to help you create the mental muscle memory of how to draw things. And so, okay, I'm going to connect these lines here. I'm also going to go to this point, and it was terrible. I'm going to make this line. When you're starting out, so like for me this is really not challenging, but for you, it might be challenging. So just take your time and just go over the reference, you know, like even if you just do this, trying to draw on top of it, you're already practicing the muscle memory that we talked about, because you're just learning how to make your hands follow the lines that it needs to follow. Right now, you're not really having to think too much about where the line needs to go, but at least you're building that muscle memory to know to make your hands move into a center direction. Now, this is very easy. If I turn this off, it looks like a cube, right? And the next step of this kind of breakdown is you did the breakdown. Now you're going to try to do this yourself, looking at your breakdown. as I say, this is such a simple reference that there's not much difference between the breakdown and the reference itself. But if it was a more complex reference, like a human body or a face, your construction lines would be a lot easier to copy and reference versus trying to reference the person itself. Because doing these breakdowns, you're simplifying what you're seeing, and now it's easier for you to kind of see and understand the relationships between the points, the lines, the shapes, and that makes it easy for you to draw it on your own. So I'm just gonna start with this corner here, the same one we started the other time, and from here I can go anywhere, right? It doesn't matter where you start. What matters is remembering that everything is in relationship to itself. So like if I made this first point, my next point is going to be in relationship with the first one. So I know I'm going to draw this point next. So I'm like, oh, okay, it's a bit to the right and a bit down, right? So you see, like my hand is almost already making this movement because it kind of remembers what we did last time. Just gonna take this a bit to the right here. Now, it might not be exactly like the reference, but it doesn't matter. Like, at first you're just getting this muscle memory and you're just putting in the practice, you know? And I'm looking at my reference and I think this point should be a little bit up. So I'm just going to try and draw it here. I'm gonna raise this and go here. Now it could have been the right angle, but it felt wrong, so I'm just gonna go with the flow here. Now remember this next point, see it goes a little bit like this, like to the right and up. So I'm like, and notice how I'm also like making my hands follow those lines without even putting in the canvas. And it's much easier to do this instead of just going straight there, because your body kind of remembers the movement, you know. So I just connecting here, and now we have the other point, which kind of seems to be pretty much in the same like height here, same position vertically, but it's a little bit down. So if I were to just follow it almost in the same position and bring it a little bit down, I would bring it right here. Now I'm gonna look at the distance here, which kind of seems to be like the halfway point. So almost like here. I think it's a bit more. Okay, even for me this is kind of challenging, and right now I can see like the proportions are not quite right. I think this point should be more here, but this point, let's see, if I do this, yeah, this feels much better. Now it might still be off, but I'm just gonna keep going for the sake of this video. Now these vertical lines here, pretty straightforward, I think. They kind of go inwards because of the perspective, so I'm gonna try to do that. You know, unless you're trying to be super realistic, it's always a good idea to exaggerate a little bit what you're seeing, because it makes the art more appealing. Now my style is not realistic at all, and yeah, that's just something I learned. So I'm looking at the height here, trying to go at the same height here, and this line kind of follows the same pattern here, so I'm just gonna eyeball it. And you know, this one connects down, and this one again follows the same one, the one on top. Sorry if that was too fast, but I hope you can get the idea. Now, when you start working with more complex references, what you can do is select this and try to bring it on top of the other reference. It would be easier if I had selected a different color, but let's try to align it here. And now, just by placing my drawing on top of the reference breakdown, I can better see where I missed the mark. So I can see that, you know, this point is a bit up. This point here should come inwards a little bit. And everything else kind of seems like it's fine. So let's just try to do that. Remember, this point was a bit here, and this one was like more here. So now, if I try to fix it, and this exercise is very useful when you're learning to draw better. Okay, let's try this again. Now it kind of matches it perfectly, right? So congratulations to me. All right, well, I hope that kind of shows what is the process. Now I'm gonna go faster for the next ones because it's just the same exact process, but just repeated, you know. And remember to, like, if you're doing this as a practice session, shit, what happened? You're just trying to get, like, you know, the practice, like make sure you're building like the muscle memory for your hands to go where you want it to go, and also your eyes to start understanding where things need to go, the positioning, the proportions, you know. And sometimes you're gonna see I keep it very loose, like, also because I got better at just drawing lines faster, you know. I can, like, easily, sometimes you see the screen moving. It's because my hands are like kind of resting on top of the iPad, and then it moves everything. So this reference here is interesting because it's not only one cube but two cubes in different perspectives, and they're on top of each other. Something you could do as well to try to understand this better is, like, draw the parts that you don't see. And this is very fun to do, in my opinion, because now you're like, wow, I got X-ray vision, you know. And since this kind of reference is a little bit more complex, you can start to pay attention, like, the differences here, like the distance between things, you know. Like, for instance, this point here, it's where in this line does it sit, and you start making notes of this mentally. And when you start drawing this on your own, you already have that knowledge in your head, and so it makes it easier to keep going, which is what we're trying to do here. Sorry, I might say some random things because I'm just not used to drawing and talking. Now, feel free to go slower and remember to like place the points, think about the positioning. I'm going faster because I don't want this video to be too long. And here I'm going to try and draw again, just looking at it. I can see there's a line here like this. This one kind of goes like this. And I know this point is a bit like this. Also, don't be afraid to make like these construction lines. Like in the reference, they didn't exist. But you can do them just to make your life easier. Something we're going to also talk about when we get into perspective is this side of the cube is smaller than this one because of how the camera works. And I noticed that I'm trying to capture it as well. Just keeping that in mind while I draw. I'm pretty sure this doesn't look too much like a cube. So here, I just saw that this side felt too big. And also I think the rotation is not that correct. Kind of looks more like this to me. And this ability to see things is what you get from just practicing drawing, you know. I confess I don't do this exercise too much. With simple shapes at least. I do it sometimes with like more complex stuff. But it really helps. Jesus, that was like not a cube. But it really helps to practice seeing things like an artist. See like an artist. It should be like a book or something. Seeing like an artist. Yeah. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm struggling with the technology here. Okay, you know what? Let's just keep going. Now remember I made this note here. Oh, this line's kind of here. And also I can try to understand like the relationship between this shape here. Kind of cuts down very close to this point. So like here, you know, cuts down like this. And in here, look, this part is outside the cube, which means I have to come here. And you know, these little relationships, that's what you're trying to look for. And notice how close to this other point this line cuts. So it's like very close here. And yeah, that's pretty much the idea. Now, I'm not gonna speed up this video because I think it could be helpful to watch it in real time. You know, when you're drawing, just take your time and do things slowly. I can already see some imperfections, let's say, in the proportion, but let's bring it here. Yeah, if you try to line up, you're gonna see, oh, some things are way off. And then ideally, you come back and correct them. But I'm not gonna do that right now, because I wanna show you guys the other shapes. Yeah, so this one we introduced like cylinders and spheres. And, well, drawing a sphere, there's not much secret to it. It's like literally getting the movement right. And something you can do to draw a circle is, instead of like, you know, come here and do this, bad circle, right? What I try to do is, Jesus, I try to kind of warm up a little bit, like move my hand in the shape of the circle, whatever direction you want to go, and just keep it very loose. Like, I'm also like supporting the movement with my shoulder and on my wrist, on my elbow. I'm just moving my entire arm into circular motion. And here we're just warming up our muscle to kind of make it follow the shape. And I'm gonna gently put the pen on the canvas and I'm gonna keep it going. And you're gonna see it eventually conforms to the circle. And then you can kind of erase the parts that are not that circular. And voila, you got yourself a circle. Now, mine is not perfect, but I think it looks good. If yours don't look that good, don't worry about it. It's just a matter of practicing. And you can also like do this just for circles, just put a bunch of circles and do this on repeat. And just treat it like going to the gym. Don't know if you enjoy going to the gym. I do. But like, it's exercising, you're like doing your reps. And day by day by day. You don't have to do it every day. You can do like a few days a week, or depending on how fast you want to go here. But it's a matter of just putting in the reps. And don't worry too much about the end results. Just focus on the process. Focus on doing the exercises instead of trying to get them perfect all the time. Okay? Okay. So, the cylinder here. Again, we're just doing the same thing. Like, there's no real edge there, but you can kind of see there's a line here that connects. Also, you could do something like this just to make it easier for you to draw like this circular shape. Yeah, and there you go. Oops. This can be fun if you relax, just enjoy yourself. I can see it's very interesting because this line, it's almost a little bit to the left from the center of this sphere here. And this line is also very close to the top of the cylinder. So again, just taking those mental notes and understanding, the relationships. For instance, look at this one. It goes through here, and it's, when you're drawing this without going over the reference, believe it or not, those mental notes come in handy. I'm just gonna finish this off real quick. There you go. Again, if you're doing this exercise, break the reference down, then copy it without going over it, because it really helps let the information sink in. Okay, I thought it was a cool shape and very interesting. I never drew something like this. Sorry. Here. Forgot to select the layer. So here, I think I would start from the bottom here. I'm already seeing like some relationships here. This like, it's not a straight line. There's a bit of an angle here. And this side is also like bigger than this side. So I'm like taking notes. Oh, this is cool. And why is it bigger? Because of the perspective. Also, something I didn't talk about is whenever you're drawing something, it really helps to make the drawing better if you think in 3D. Instead of just trying to uh, draw something in 2 dimensions in your head, kind of think that your pen is going in and out of the picture as well as sideways and up and down. For instance, this edge here, it's not really a line just going down and a bit to the left. It's going into this axis here, the depth, and the line is going there. And when you draw thinking about this, it makes it a lot better. The drawing looks less flat. And when I noticed you could do this, I was like, wow, this is super cool. You see, I saw there's an edge. This one kind of looks straight, but it's not. There's an edge here. So I was just taking note of that edge. You know, edges want to be seen as well. Seen and heard and acknowledged. Yeah, I'm going like a little bit fast, but you guys get the idea, right? It's a matter of like getting the practice for the muscles of your hands and also the muscles of your mind to see what you're doing. But yeah, this is quite cool. Let's do the last one. This one for me seems more interesting because there's a bit more of a challenge, and I'm going to do the full exercise here. So again, circle can keep you, just let your hands warm up, and then you're doing it just like that. Don't worry, you can draw. You just gotta believe it. And you can just come in here, just clean up the shapes, right? Now, what I'm seeing as well is that this thing here, it's a bit bigger than the sphere on top. And the sphere rests on top of it, creating this very interesting shape. And what I would do is this edge here, again coming down, we see this other section here. It's almost the same size as this one on top. It's a little bit bigger. I think it looks a little bit bigger, so I'm gonna draw it a little bit bigger in my head. And it connects like going up here, so which is pretty cool, right? It's like everything connected. It's like if I turn this off, you're gonna see it goes exactly where the sphere sits. How cool is that? Very cool. Now again, this other section, there's a section here on this edge, right? Because it's an edge. It's also a little bit bigger than this guy, so it's more outside, right? And there's this shape here. This other one goes in, and then you have another section here going around it, and it ends down here. Also, we could refine this, you know, for hours and hours. The shadows also tell you a lot about the shape. We're going to talk about shadows whenever we go into painting. But for now, baby steps. So, okay. I'm just going to start with the circle here. Ooh, too big. It's a small circle, right? No need to rush. I don't know if you guys think my circles are good or not. You might be going like, shit, that's a terrible circle. Or that's an awesome circle. But yeah, guys, I'll just keep going. So here, I drew the circle. Now, every other side is going to be in relationship with the circle. So I'm looking, okay, in my original reference, if I draw like a breakdown here, in this middle, what proportion of the sphere is this side? Because I think it's kind of like half the size of the sphere. So I'm just going with my mind imagining here. And also remember I said this section is bigger than the circle, so it means this line, which is this line, goes a bit out. Now I just draw this, which is this section, right? And again, remember this point, it's kind of in the halfway point here, like this. So I'm just gonna bring it here. I'm also going to do this edge, let's say. Erase these lines so nobody knows I used, oh shit, I used construction lines. Shh, that's our secret. Now, if I look at my reference, this circle kinda looks like a quarter of the entire height. So if I just imagine another circle here, then another circle here, I said kinda, so I did because I saw the reference here. I was like, oh, this is the bottom part. Oh, we can do this because the reference is right here. But yeah, you use the things you already have on your canvas just to measure everything else. And I'm measuring here very loosely. This, I think this was too big. I'm gonna try to fix it real quick. Yeah. So yeah, you just enjoy the process and approach it with curiosity. You don't need to be perfect. You're just slowly learning how lines and shapes work. And then you try something, you look, oh, does it work? If it works, great. If it doesn't, try it again. Just make it better. You know? Because the biggest problem is like putting your first line. Because it feels so intimidating, right? Like, oh, I gotta start with a perfect line. But you don't really. You can just start. And eventually the answers come to you. You know? That's life. And now we have, it's a little bit inwards, I think. Now we have this section going out, remember? I just saw this line here. You see I drew it because I saw it. And I'm just gonna do that real quick. So we have this section here. Just erasing these arms. And here it is. Now, again, it's not perfect, but it's something. And if we were to come here, oh yeah, see, it was very close. Now, once you start doing the comparisons between the two, you know, the breakdown and your attempt, you're gonna start noticing the mistakes you make. You might think, oh, sometimes I make things too big, or I place them to this side or to this other side. And the more you do this, the more you're gonna start noticing these little things. And when you become aware of the things that you're doing wrong, that's when you can start addressing them. Okay, well, I hope this tutorial was helpful. And for your practice sessions, remember, just stick to basic shapes at first. And eventually you can start moving towards more complex things. I am going to do more breakdowns like this. We can work on human faces, human anatomy, you know, bodies, animals, whatever. And we can do more breakdowns like this together, but I just wanted to show like a very basic exercise that anyone can do and anyone can benefit from doing these exercises, no matter the skill level that you have. Because even if you are a master, it's always good to train a little bit more of the fundamentals, because it's the foundations, you know. You want to be like very good at them. So yeah, as a practice session for you, I'm gonna put these images in the description, and you guys can do this exercise on your own. Don't worry about being perfect at first. Just learn to see, and eventually, if you want to take it a little bit further, you can do like speed drawing sessions. Like a reference, you put like 2 minutes and try to draw it. And you do this over and over again, and then eventually you get better. And that's how you improve, guys. By just practicing and practicing, but not just relentlessly practicing, being smart on how you practice. Remember, if push-ups are too hard, you do an easier progression. And a breakdown like this is an easier progression to drawing something from reference. So, hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think, and post photos here in the community of your exercise results, because then I'm going to be giving you feedback and critique if you want, and other members can do the same as well. All right, well, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye.